Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Zurzoth, Chaos Rider. It is a 3 mana 2/3 and whenever an opponent draws their first card each turn, if it's not their turn, you create a 1/1 red devil creature token with, when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. Furthermore, whenever one or more devils you control attack one or more players, you and those players each draw a card, then discard a card at random. This is a really fun mono-colored commander that leads to a bunch of picking out cards at random from your opponent's hands during a commander game, and that will end up in you creating an army of 1/1 devils, which will help you to win the game. We can spend our early game either with playing some ramp artifacts, or we also try to resolve a few of the following spells. For example, Razorkin Needlehead, a 2 mana 2/2 and it has first strike during your turn. Furthermore, whenever an opponent draws a card, Razorkin Needlehead deals 1 damage to them. In this type of deck we will diminish our opponent's life total by small amounts, so Razorkin Needlehead definitely helps with that, because on attack with a devil a few players draw cards, which will lead to it dealing damage to them. Quite a similar card is Scrawling Crawler, a 3 mana 3/2 and at the beginning of your upkeep each player draws a card. That will already trigger Zurzoth and will give you a few 1/1 devils. Furthermore, whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. One of our best turn 1 plays is Currency Converter, a 1 mana artifact, and whenever you discard a card you may exile that card from your graveyard. Furthermore, for 2 mana and tapping it, draw a card and then discard a card. You can also tap it and put a card exiled with Currency Converter into your graveyard. If it's a land card, create a treasure token, and if it's a non-land card, create a 2/2 black rogue creature token. In this type of deck you will most likely never use its activated ability of paying 2 to draw and discard, because you already got that looting mechanic with your commander, and with all of the cards that you also have to discard at random, you will just put them under the Currency Converter and tap it when the time is right to create even more value. We play Contaminant Construct, a 2 mana 2/1, and whenever you discard a card you may exile that card from your graveyard. If you do, you may play that card this turn. Another alternative to never lose resources when attacking with your devils and getting your Zurzoth trigger, because depending on what you discard you can just exile it under the construct and just play it this turn. Another card advantage piece is Zenith Chronicler, a 2 mana 3/1, and whenever a player casts their first multicolored spell each turn, each other player draws a card. Sadly you will give your opponents a few resources, but in return you will also get a bunch of devils. We play Conspiracy Theorist, a 2 mana 2/2, and whenever it attacks you may pay 1 mana and discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Furthermore, whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards you may exile one of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. Keep in mind that this card says cast, and as written in the text it cares about non-land cards, so be aware of what you discard. Once we have brought out Zurzoth we want to start attacking, so we can either do that with the devil tokens that we already have, or we play even more devils. For example, Wildfire Devils, a 4 mana 4/2, and when it enters the battlefield and at the beginning of your upkeep choose a player at random. That player exiles an instant or sorcery card from their graveyard, copy that card, you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. Keep in mind that this can also target you, and this is a great card to generate even more value with spells your opponents have cast, and along the way it will also keep their graveyards in check. We play Hellrider, a 4 mana 3/3 with haste, and whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Another great ping effect that we will use in this deck. For even more card advantage we play Sin Prodder, a 3 mana 3/2 with menace, and at the beginning of your upkeep reveal the top card of your library. Any opponent may have you put that card into your graveyard. If a player does, Sin Prodder deals damage to that player equal to that card's converted mana cost, and otherwise put that card into your hand. We also play Gibbering Fiend, a 2 mana 2/1, and when it enters the battlefield it deals 1 damage to each opponent. It has a really powerful delirium mechanic, because at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, Gibbering Fiend deals 1 damage to that player. Another devil in this deck is Taurian Mauler, a 3 mana 2/2 with Changeling, and whenever an opponent casts a spell you may put a 1/1 counter on this creature. This can turn into the biggest devil that you have ever seen, that can clap your opponents quite hard. Last but not least we play Witty Roastmaster, a 3 mana 3/2 with Alliance, Alliance, so whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Witty Roastmaster deals 1 damage to each opponent. This Impact Tremors effect on a creature is really powerful, especially in this deck that keeps creating tokens over and over again, and in addition to that, himself is also a devil. Let's talk about even more ping effects. We play Impact Tremors, a 2 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control enters this enchantment, deals 1 damage to each opponent. We play Cavalcade of Calamity, a 2 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with power 1 or less attacks, Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. A similar effect comes from Raid Bombardment, a 3 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. The most powerful Impact Tremors effect in your deck is Perforos, God of the Forge, a 4 mana 6/5 with Indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. It also has an inbuilt Anthem effect. For 3 mana, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. Due to the fact that we create a bunch of small 1/1 creatures, we also want to have an instant speed sacrifice outlet to sacrifice them whenever we need, to generate value out of them if we have to use them as jump blockers, or if we run into an army of huge creatures anyways. So we play Ashnod's Altar, a 3 mana artifact, sacrifice a creature to add 2 colorless mana. We also play Altar of Dementia, a 2 mana artifact, sacrifice a creature, target player puts a number of cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power from the top of their library into their graveyard. The most powerful sacrifice outlet that we play in this deck is Goblin Bombardment, a 2 mana enchantment, sacrifice a creature, Goblin Bombardment deals 1 damage to any target. You want to win more? You get it. We play Fiery Emancipation, a 6 mana enchantment, and if a source you control will deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. This damage tripling effect will turn your small devils into huge devils, as they will automatically deal either free damage by connecting, or if you get their Leave the Battlefield trigger. We play City on Fire, an 8 mana enchantment with Convoke, and if a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage instead. It has the same effect as Fiery Emancipation, but we can use our devils to pay for its mana cost. And last but not least, we play Solphim Mayhem Dominus, a 4 mana 5/4, and if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. This damage doubling effect is also a powerful creature, and it also has a useful activated ability, because for 1 mana and 2 red Phyrexian mana and discarding 2 cards, you can put an indestructible counter on Solphim Dominus. This can be quite helpful, as there are card advantage pieces in this deck that synergize with you discarding cards, so if you have the right cards on board, it won't even be that much of a downside. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I will play in Zurzoth Chaos Rider. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.